Have you ever felt like you're surrounded by performers? I certainly have. People don masks every day, pretending to be someone else. The fascinating part is that once you start reading between the lines, you can see through the act. I remember being in a meeting where everyone was nodding and smiling, yet I could sense the hidden agendas beneath those cheerful facades. It was all in the body language, the shifts in feet, the silences, the brief pauses. Believe me, once you learn to notice these clues, your perception of people will never be the same. Are you ready to uncover what they're really concealing? Let's get started. One useful technique is the tell me more method. It feels like having a superpower, without the need for a flashy outfit or cape. And the best part is that nobody even realizes you're employing it. It's incredibly straightforward, yet very effective. Just relax, stay composed, and when someone is passionately sharing their perspective, instead of interrupting with your opinion or engaging in a debate, simply ask, "Tell me more." I discovered this technique years ago while debating a friend over whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Of all things, I was prepared to challenge every argument they presented, but then something shifted. Instead of debating, I simply smiled and said, "Tell me more." What happened next was surprising. They began discussing pizza, but soon they were sharing childhood memories of family meals, their favorite foods, and even a quirky story about why they disliked pineapple as kids. It transformed from a conversation about pizza into a deep exploration of their inner experiences, all sparked by those three little words. Here's the thing. When people feel truly listened to, they let their guard down. Without the pressure to defend their opinions or engage in an argument, they end up revealing much more than they intended. You create a safe environment where they feel at ease enough to shed their usual defenses. They might believe they're just chatting, but in truth, they're uncovering their motivations, fears, insecurities, and aspirations, often without even realizing it. I've applied this technique in business meetings, with friends, and even with those who seemed a bit suspicious. During one negotiation, instead of pushing my own agenda, I simply kept saying, "Tell me more." By the end, the other party had revealed their entire strategy, explaining their urgent need for a deal. They practically handed me the keys to their operation, and all I did was listen. It almost felt too simple. But here's the deeper insight. This approach isn't merely a tactic for gathering information or winning an argument. It's about building genuine connections. In a world where people are quick to speak but slow to listen, tell me more becomes a gateway to understanding others on a profound level. It encourages you to step outside your own ego. To stop thinking about your next response, and to truly consider the other person's viewpoint. When you invite someone to express themselves without judgment, you offer them the rare gift of feeling truly heard. In that moment, you foster trust, understanding, and sometimes even healing. This technique embodies a fundamental principle of Stoicism, practicing empathy without attachment. You're not trying to manipulate the conversation. You're simply observing, understanding, and maintaining your calm. It's not just about interpreting people's actions. It's about seeing them for who they truly are, and giving them the space to share their authentic selves. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, whether it's a casual chat, a negotiation, or a heated debate, give the tell me more technique a try. You'll be surprised at how much richer conversations can become, how much people will open up, and how effortless it is to truly understand them without feeling the need to push for your point. Beyond simply winning a discussion, this method fosters authentic human connections rooted in respect and genuine curiosity. That's where the real strength lies, seeing others for who they are, and in turn, discovering more about yourself. To gauge someone's true character, pay attention to how they treat those in less powerful positions. If you want to understand someone deeply, don't just focus on how they interact with you. Observe how they treat people they view as beneath them. This perspective can be a bit controversial, as it reveals some uncomfortable truths about human nature. Whether it's a waiter at a restaurant, a cashier at a grocery store, or a colleague lower on the corporate ladder, how someone engages with those who hold less power speaks volumes about their character. I learned this lesson the hard way. I once worked with someone who appeared to be incredibly kind, charming, and always respectful during meetings. However, one day when we went out for lunch, I witnessed a completely different side of them. As soon as we sat down, they were disrespectful to the waiter, barking orders as if they were royalty and the server was beneath them. It was startling to see such a rapid shift from being friendly and warm to becoming dismissive and arrogant. That was a real eye-opener for me, making it clear that this wasn't just a one-off incident. It was a true reflection of their character. They were only pleasant when it suited their interests. People reveal their genuine nature when they think no one of importance is watching. If someone is condescending to a waiter, it's likely they'll be condescending to anyone they perceive as powerless. If they dismiss a colleague simply because of their junior status, that same arrogance and lack of respect will likely emerge in other aspects of their life. A person who is kind to you but rude to others isn't truly kind. They're calculating. Consider this. When there's no social pressure to behave well, and someone knows they can mistreat others without consequences, that's when their true personality emerges. Stoicism teaches us to observe human behavior without bias, and this is one of the clearest signs of a person's integrity. It's easy to be nice when there's something to gain, but true character is revealed when someone has nothing to lose. I've applied this principle in friendships, professional settings, and even in dating. It's become a sort of silent test for me. If someone treats the janitor with respect, expresses gratitude to the bus driver, or shows kindness to a stranger, that's a person worth getting to know. Conversely, if they're unnecessarily harsh or dismissive, that's a major red flag. What's even more intriguing is that how we treat others often reflects our own self-perception. Those who show respect to everyone, regardless of their position, tend to be secure in themselves. They don't need to belittle others to feel significant. In contrast, individuals who are cruel to others are usually projecting their insecurities, trying to elevate themselves by stepping on those they consider weaker. This behavior is a form of arrogance that Stoicism encourages us to recognize and avoid within ourselves. So if you want to truly understand someone, don't be misled by how they interact with people they're eager to impress. Instead, observe how they treat those who have nothing to offer. That's the clearest way to see beyond the facade and into the heart of who they truly are. Lastly, their past holds the key to their present. To genuinely understand someone, take a closer look at their history. People often claim that the past is behind us, but in reality, it continues to shape who they are today. Whether they acknowledge it or not, their experiences, traumas, triumphs, and relationships all influence how they think, behave, and even how they treat you in the present. This perspective can be a bit controversial, as it suggests that people don't simply move on. Instead, they carry their histories with them. Often, that history serves as a blueprint for their behaviors. I had a friend who always seemed anxious regardless of the circumstances. They were overly defensive, quick to anger, and extremely wary in relationships. Initially, I assumed it was just part of their personality. But as I got to know them better, I discovered more about their background. They had experienced deep betrayals from those they trusted, faced financial struggles, and grown up in an environment where they constantly felt the need to prove their worth. Suddenly, everything made sense. Their defensiveness wasn't arbitrary. It was a direct response to a need to protect themselves from further pain. Our past experiences leave impressions, sometimes even scars, that help explain why individuals behave the way they do. For instance, someone who felt neglected as a child may seek constant validation as an adult, while a person who has been let down by a business partner may develop distrust toward anyone attempting to collaborate with them. The important thing here isn't to excuse people's behavior, but to recognize that they often aren't acting solely based on the present. Instead, they're responding to echoes of their past. Stoicism encourages us to view situations as they are, without judgment, and understanding someone's history is essential for seeing them clearly. I've observed this dynamic in romantic relationships as well. Have you ever dated someone who initially seemed perfectly fine, only to later reveal troubling patterns? Perhaps they exhibit excessive jealousy, or have difficulty committing. Most of the time, if you look closely enough, you'll discover that their previous relationships have left them with unresolved wounds. It's the fear of being hurt again that influences their actions now. Recognizing this doesn't mean you have to accept toxic behavior, but it does provide valuable insight into their motivations. The hard truth is that many people find themselves trapped in cycles, repeatedly engaging in behaviors rooted in past experiences. It's as if they are stuck, reliving the same patterns without even realizing it. For example, a coworker who constantly seeks validation may be reenacting a childhood experience where they felt inadequate. A friend who sabotages every relationship is likely responding to a deep-seated fear of rejection stemming from past heartbreak. Their reactions, habits, and choices all stem from these underlying issues. It's all a reflection of the unresolved aspects of their past. But here's where it gets even more profound. Understanding someone's history not only aids in navigating your relationship with them, but it can also help them break free from these recurring cycles. If you can gently highlight the patterns they're repeating, you might encourage them to gain self-awareness. This newfound insight could lead them to confront what they've been avoiding for years. Stoicism emphasizes self-reflection and growth, and sometimes recognizing someone's past allows you to help them on their journey toward improvement. It's easy to judge others based solely on their current behavior, but their history often holds the key to understanding their actions. When you begin to see behaviors as responses to past experiences, you can approach others with greater empathy while also safeguarding yourself from getting entangled in their unresolved issues. In essence, the past is always present. To genuinely comprehend someone, you need to view the entire picture, not just the chapter they're currently experiencing. Additionally, sudden changes in tone can indicate lies or uncertainty. One of the most telling signs that someone is not being truthful or is hiding something is a noticeable shift in their vocal tone. Many people don't realize that our voices often reveal what's happening beneath the surface. When someone speaks confidently, their tone is typically steady, their pace consistent, and their words flow naturally. However, when they are lying or hesitating, those elements often change, sometimes in very subtle ways. Sometimes, these changes can be quite dramatic, as if their subconscious is desperately trying to signal red flags for you to notice. I once had a coworker who was always smooth and charming, effortlessly knowing what to say. However, during a discussion about a project deadline, something shifted. His typically upbeat and confident voice suddenly faltered. His words came out slower, almost stuttering. I immediately felt that something was off, and sure enough, he hadn't made any progress on the project and was trying to cover it up. That change in tone was crucial. He wasn't being completely honest, and it was evident in how he spoke. So why does this happen? When people lie or feel uneasy about what they're saying, their mind and body can conflict. Their brain attempts to maintain the lie or mask their uncertainty, but their body, especially their voice, reveals the underlying stress. This may manifest as a higher pitch, a tremor in their voice, or even an unusually long pause. It's as if their tone is out of sync with their words. Think back to the last time you caught someone in a lie. How did their voice change? Did they become quieter, or did they start talking faster? Perhaps their tone took on an artificial cheerfulness, as if they were trying too hard to sound normal. These are all indicators that something isn't quite right. The shift in tone serves as a subconscious signal of discomfort, whether it stems from lying, hiding something, or simply feeling uncertain. It's not solely about detecting lies. Sudden changes in tone can also indicate hesitation or uncertainty. I once had a friend who would get very enthusiastic about our plans, but the moment I suggested something she wasn't keen on, her tone would change immediately. She'd shift from excited to monotone, as if a switch had been flipped. That was my clear signal that she wasn't truly on board, even if her words suggested otherwise. This phenomenon occurs in relationships, business negotiations, and even casual conversations. You've probably noticed it too, when someone suddenly transitions from upbeat and friendly to defensive or evasive. Even if their words don't align with the shift, those moments are when you need to focus less on what they're saying and more on how they're saying it. A sudden drop in energy, A change in pitch, or a hesitation that wasn't there before can serve as subconscious indicators that the person is lying or withholding something significant. Here's a deeper lesson from Stoicism. People often lie not only to deceive others, but also to deceive themselves. When their tone changes, it's not always an attempt to manipulate you. More often, it stems from their own discomfort with the lies they're telling themselves. This unease seeps into their voice, revealing their internal conflict, even if they're unaware of it. Stoicism encourages us to observe without judgment, and this is a perfect illustration of how you can harness that observational power. By paying attention to the subtle shifts in someone's tone, you can gain insight into their internal struggles. It's important to recognize that we often do this to ourselves as well. How many times have you said something you didn't truly believe, only to notice your voice wavering? Your tone becomes a reflection of your inner doubts. This is why Stoicism highlights the need to align your thoughts, words, and actions. When they're out of sync, it often manifests in ways beyond your control. So, the next time you're in a conversation and notice a sudden change in someone's tone, be it a drop in energy, an awkward pause, or a shift in pitch, don't overlook it. Consider what they might be holding back or what makes them uncomfortable. It may not be an outright lie, but there's a strong possibility they aren't revealing the full truth. Their voice can serve as a tell, and if you listen carefully, you'll pick up on it every time. Now, let's talk about the moments when people are at their most authentic, when they think no one is watching. If you want to truly understand someone at their core, observe them when they believe they're off the radar. These are the times when individuals let go of the masks they wear in public, the social personas they've crafted to fit in or advance, and reveal their true selves. This is a somewhat controversial truth, as many of us would like to think that our public selves align with our private selves. However, the reality is that people often behave quite differently when they believe no one is paying attention. I remember a manager I worked with who always maintained a facade of professionalism when the boss was present. She would engage in polite small talk, keep a calm demeanor, and never raise her voice. Yet, as soon as our higher-ups left the office, it was as if she morphed into an entirely different person. She would snap at the team, make belittling comments, and show a complete lack of respect for others. It was shocking and taught me an important lesson. The person someone is when they believe they're not being observed is often their truest self. When people are under scrutiny, they become acutely aware of how they're perceived, acting in ways they think will gain approval or prevent conflict. However, as soon as they think they're out of sight, those filters vanish. You can witness this in small moments, how they react when they think no one is watching, how they treat those who cannot offer them anything, or how they behave when they believe there are no consequences. It's in these seemingly minor interactions that their true nature is revealed. This principle applies across all areas of life, from personal relationships to professional settings to everyday interactions. Take romantic relationships, for example. At the start, both individuals typically put their best foot forward, trying to impress one another. But if you really want to understand who someone is, pay attention during the quieter moments, those times when they're not trying to win you over. How do they treat the server when you're out for dinner? What are they like when under stress or when they think you're not focused on them? Do they continue to show kindness, patience, and respect? Or do they let their guard down and reveal a less flattering side? I've noticed this dynamic in social situations as well. You might have a friend who's the life of the party, always telling jokes and soaking up the attention when everyone's around. However, when they think no one is paying attention, they can become aloof, selfish, or dismissive. Their true nature often reveals itself not in the grand moments, but in the subtle, private ones. This is where the Stoic perspective comes into play. As a Stoic, you learn to observe life without bias. People frequently show their authentic selves when they believe they're off stage, and it's in these instances that you can genuinely understand them. Stoicism teaches us that virtue isn't about how we behave in front of others, but how we act when no one is watching. A person who remains kind, patient, and respectful, even when there's no audience to applaud them, embodies Stoic values. Unfortunately, many individuals don't operate this way. They create a divide between their public and private personas, acting in ways that enhance their image when others are around, while allowing their less admirable traits to surface in private. I had a colleague who was exceptionally supportive and warm during group meetings, always offering positive feedback and encouragement. But when we were alone, his demeanor changed completely. He became short, dismissive, and uninterested in helping unless it directly benefited him. That's when I realized his public persona was merely a facade. The most genuine moments don't occur under the spotlight. They happen when no one is watching. When people believe no one is watching, whether they display kindness or cruelty, those unguarded moments reveal their true nature. This is where you gain genuine insight into who they are. If someone can only show goodness when others are present, it isn't authentic. It's merely an act. The profound lesson from Stoicism is that true character is defined by who you are in the shadows, not under the spotlight. Stoicism teaches us to strive for alignment with our values at all times, regardless of who's observing. A Stoic's actions remain consistent because they stem from within, not from a desire for external approval. By watching others in their vulnerable moments, you not only uncover their truth, but also remind yourself of the significance of living authentically, even in solitude. So the next time you want to really understand someone, don't get caught up in their grand gestures or public persona. Instead, notice how they behave when the spotlight is off. That's where their true character is revealed. Now, let's consider emotional reactions as indicators of what someone truly values. To grasp what matters most to a person, pay attention to their emotional responses in different situations. These reactions serve as an unfiltered glimpse into their inner self, exposing their priorities and values. This concept might be controversial, as many of us like to believe we have control over our emotions and can conceal them when necessary. What we truly value often becomes evident in our emotional responses. The reality is, when someone reacts intensely, whether through anger, excitement, or anxiety, it signals that their feelings are linked to something significant in their life. For instance, I once had a colleague who typically remained calm and collected, seemingly unbothered by anything. However, during a routine meeting, a minor suggestion for altering one of his projects set him off. I was shocked by his reaction. It seemed disproportionate to the situation. But here's the insight. His outburst wasn't really about the proposed change itself. It stemmed from the fact that this project was incredibly personal to him. He had invested countless hours into it, and it meant more to him than just a job. His emotional reaction revealed just how much that project mattered, even if he had never stated it outright. People don't always articulate what's most important to them verbally, but their emotions are hard to conceal. Take, for example, a boss who becomes angry when his decisions are questioned. This isn't merely about maintaining authority. It reflects how deeply his self-worth is connected to being right. Similarly, a friend who becomes overly defensive about a minor critique likely feels a deep-seated insecurity or attachment to a value that's being challenged. On the other hand, the joy someone expresses when they receive praise highlights that recognition is a key priority for them, even if they wouldn't openly admit it. The takeaway is that people's strongest emotional reactions, whether positive or negative, uncover their core priorities. They may appear cool, detached, or indifferent in many situations. But when something they care about is threatened, questioned, or acknowledged, their true emotions come to the surface. This doesn't just pertain to negative feelings like anger or frustration. It encompasses a range of emotional responses that reveal what really matters to them. The most apparent signals of what matters to someone are the things that bring them joy or excitement. For instance, when someone lights up while discussing their side hustle or hobby, it reveals just how much that passion means to them, often more than we realize. This principle becomes especially significant in relationships. If you're dating someone who reacts strongly when plans don't go as expected, it indicates that spending quality time together holds great importance for them. Similarly, if they become animated when discussing future trips or activities, it shows that creating shared experiences is a priority in their life. Emotions are always intertwined with values, and by tuning into someone's emotional signals, you can gain a clear understanding of their priorities without them needing to articulate it directly. A good illustration of this is when someone reacts defensively to a casual remark. For example, if you mention that someone has been late a few times and they respond with defensiveness instead of simply acknowledging it, that reaction reveals more than just a concern about punctuality. It indicates that being seen as reliable is crucial to their self-image. Their emotional response serves to protect that identity, reflecting how deeply they care about being perceived as dependable. Stoicism encourages us to observe human behavior with a discerning eye, and emotions are among the most revealing indicators. When someone's feelings intensify, it often uncovers underlying values and priorities, giving us deeper insights into who they truly are. This is because something they care about is at risk. You can leverage this insight to enhance your understanding of the people around you and improve your interactions with them. By recognizing what triggers their emotions, you can approach sensitive subjects with greater sensitivity or use this awareness to strengthen your relationships. However, there's a deeper Stoic lesson here. Your own emotional responses also reveal your priorities. When you find yourself reacting strongly, take a moment to reflect on why. Is it because the issue truly matters to you, or is your ego getting involved? Are you angry because your integrity is being questioned, or is it more about protecting your reputation? Stoicism teaches that by understanding our emotional responses, we can gain better control over them. We can distinguish between emotions linked to values that are genuinely significant and those that stem from pride or insecurities. Reading others isn't some kind of magic. It's about being attentive to the subtle cues they provide. Their emotions, body language, and reactions communicate a wealth of information about their true intentions, values, and priorities. Stoicism equips you with the ability to observe without judgment. When you can look beyond the surface and recognize the unspoken truths, you gain clarity in every social interaction. This skill is not just about gaining an upper hand. It's also about deepening your understanding. The more you observe others, the more you learn about yourself. Understanding what sparks your emotions, what you hold dear, and how to live according to your principles can greatly enhance your life. By observing others with honesty and discernment, you can not only navigate social situations more effectively, but also become a more reflective and self-aware individual. This is the true strength of this insight, using it not for manipulation, but for wisdom and personal development.